Still remember that Halloween weekend like it was yesterday. The air smelled like pumpkin candles and wet leaves, and every house glowed with orange lights. My best friend Ryan invited me for a sleepover just a few houses down. His parents were away, so we had the place to ourselves. Junk food, horror movies, and staying up past midnight around 10. His cousin Matt showed up wearing a cheap mask and brought chips. We joked about the old story of a boy who vanished from our street years ago. None of us believed it, but it made the night feel colder. Then Brian pointed toward the woods and said last Halloween he saw someone standing there. Someone who looked exactly like him. We brushed it off and went back inside, though none of us said much after that. The air in the living room felt heavy, thick, like the night had followed us in. Around 1 in the morning, we put on a scary movie, thinking some fake horror might drown out the real kind of fear crawling in our heads. Halfway through, Ryan paused the screen and frowned. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. We all went still. There it was again. A faint, rhythmic tapping from outside, soft and slow, like bare feet stepping on the porch. 3 steps, pause, 3 more. Then, silence. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound too loud. Matt tried to joke, saying it was probably a raccoon, but his voice cracked. He grabbed a flashlight anyway, and we followed him outside. The porch boards groaned beneath us. The cold air bit at our faces. The yard was empty, except for a plastic pumpkin lying on its side, rolling gently in the breeze. The night was so quiet it hurt to breathe. Ryan swept the flashlight toward the driveway. Nothing. No movement, no footprints, just darkness pressing in like a living thing. We turned to head back inside when Ryan suddenly froze. "Did you hear that?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. We all stopped. Then, from somewhere deep in the woods came laughter. Soft, slow, drawn out. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't even normal. It sounded like someone trying to copy how we laughed earlier, but wrong. Slower, distorted, the kind of sound that makes your body go cold before your brain can process it. Matt muttered something under his breath, and we bolted back inside, slamming the door. Ryan tried to laugh it off, saying it was probably just the wind or a Halloween prank, but his voice didn't sound convinced. Even after the movie ended, none of us really spoke. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still out there, watching from the dark just beyond the porch lights. Morning made everything feel safe again, at least for a while. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting across the room, and the fear from last night felt almost stupid. We laughed about it, teasing Ryan for having woods paranoia. But I noticed he kept glancing out the window, eyes flicking toward the trees every few minutes. By the afternoon, Matt went home, leaving just Ryan and me. The house felt emptier without him, like the walls had started to listen. We played video games for a while, trying to ignore the weird tension hanging in the air. But every time I looked at the hallway mirror, I swore I saw something move behind us. Just a flicker, a shift in the reflection that didn't match our movements. I told myself it was my imagination, but my chest stayed tight anyway. Around 4 o'clock, Ryan went to the kitchen to grab snacks. He was gone longer than he should have been. When he came back, his face was pale, his expression empty. "I was talking to the boy who looks like you," he said flatly. I blinked, waiting for him to laugh. But he didn't. "There was someone outside the kitchen window," he said slowly. "He looked exactly like me. Same face, same shirt. He was just smiling." My skin crawled. I walked to the kitchen window, but there was nothing there. Only the quiet backyard and the fence swaying slightly in the wind. Ryan stood perfectly still, staring at the glass, breathing shallow. He whispered that he'd asked the boy where I was hiding. His hands trembled when he said it. I tried to tell him it was probably just a reflection, but he didn't respond. He just backed away, eyes wide, whispering something I couldn't hear. For a moment, I almost looked into that window too, but something deep inside told me not to. It felt like if I looked long enough, I wouldn't see my own reflection staring back. The rest of the day dragged on like time itself didn't want to move. Ryan barely spoke. The house was quiet except for the hum of the heater, clicking on and off every few minutes. By nightfall, the tension was unbearable. Ryan said he wanted to sleep with the lights on. We unrolled our sleeping bags side by side and put on another movie for background noise. But I couldn't focus. My ears were waiting for something, anything. Around midnight, I woke up suddenly. The TV was off, the lights were out, and Ryan's sleeping bag was empty. My stomach dropped. I sat up, listening. Then I heard, "It!" A whisper from the hallway, my own voice calling my name. Quiet, careful, too perfect. My body locked up, but then I heard Ryan's voice from the kitchen saying, "Come here, I think he's back." I didn't want to go, but somehow I did. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Darker too, like the air itself was pulling me forward. When I reached the kitchen, the light flickered once, and I saw him. Someone was standing behind Ryan. Same height, same clothes, same face, same eyes, but the smile was wrong. Too wide, too frozen, stretching across his face like it had been painted on. My breath caught. I stumbled back, blinking, and in that instant, the figure was gone. Ryan turned around, confused, asking what was wrong. He swore he hadn't called me. We didn't sleep after that. Every creak in the house made us flinch. Around 3 in the morning, I heard slow footsteps in the hallway, bare feet brushing against the carpet. I thought it was Ryan until I looked and saw him still beside me, asleep. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I grabbed my phone for the flashlight, but before I could turn it on, the door creaked open a few inches. Cold air rushed in, raising goosebumps on my arms. I whispered Ryan's name. He stirred, barely awake. The door slowly closed again, as if someone on the other side was walking away. We didn't move until morning light filled the room. When his parents got home that afternoon, Ryan said he didn't feel well and told me I should head home early. I didn't argue. The walk back to my house felt endless. Every rustle behind me made my skin crawl. That night, I couldn't sleep. My bedroom window faced Ryan's house, and around midnight, I noticed a light flick on in his kitchen. A figure stood there, motionless, just inside the window. I squinted, but my stomach already knew it was me. I blinked once, and the light went out. Then my phone buzzed beside me. A text from Ryan. It said, "Why are you standing outside my window?" My hands went cold. I didn't reply. The next morning, Ryan didn't answer his phone. His parents said he hadn't come home since the night before. Later that day, the police came by asking questions I couldn't answer. They said the back door of Ryan's house had been left wide open, and 2 sets of footprints led into the woods. One was his, the other was barefoot. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think about that Halloween weekend. The laughter drifting through the trees, that reflection staring back at me, and the thing that wore my face like a mask. It's been years, but sometimes, when the wind hits just right and the night goes too quiet, I swear I can still hear those footsteps on the porch. Slow and deliberate, stopping right outside the door. And every time I walk past Ryan's old house, the one that's been empty for years, I see it again. A shadow by the window. Someone standing perfectly still. Someone who never stops smiling. I still remember that Halloween weekend like it just happened. My parents went to a late-night party across town, leaving me in charge of my 6-year-old brother Max. It was supposed to be a normal sleepover night, carve pumpkins, eat candy, watch scary movies, and fall asleep on the couch. But that night turned into something I can never forget. The moment my parents left, the house grew too quiet. Outside, the neighborhood was alive with laughter, footsteps, and music, but inside, it felt like the air had stopped moving. Even the wind sounded distant, like the house itself was listening. Max sat in front of the TV, his hands sticky from pumpkin seeds, giggling at an old cartoon. At first I thought he was just being silly, still riding his sugar high, but when I looked closer, I realized his eyes weren't on the screen. He was staring down the hallway, the dark one that led to our bedrooms. I called his name, but he didn't answer. His smile faded, replaced by a blank, uneasy look. Then he whispered, "She's waving at me." I turned toward the hallway, my chest tight. There was nothing there. Just shadows. But deep down, I could feel it. Something standing in the dark, waiting for us to notice. He was smiling softly, almost shyly. "Who are you looking at?" I asked, trying to sound casual. But he didn't look at me. "Uncle Ben," he whispered, still staring straight ahead. I froze. The name hit me like a punch to the chest. Uncle Ben had been our mom's older brother. The funny uncle everyone loved, the one who brought fireworks on the 4th of July and always made us laugh until we cried. He'd passed away 3 years earlier after a car accident on his way home from work. Max had been only 3 then, too young to remember him. Or so I thought. I forced a small laugh. "Uncle Ben, huh? You mean from the pictures?" But Max didn't move. His wide eyes didn't blink. "No," he said softly. "He's right there." He pointed to the dark hallway where only the faint glow of a nightlight touched the carpet. My stomach tightened. I stared, half expecting to see someone standing there, but it was empty. Completely empty. "Okay, Max. That's enough spooky talk for tonight," I said, forcing a grin. I reached for the light switch, but before I could flick it, Max giggled again. "He says he wants to play hide and seek," he said with that innocent excitement only a child can have. Something about the way he said it made my blood run cold. I turned toward the hallway again. The nightlight flickered once, then went out. The air grew heavier, colder, like the room had lost all its warmth in a second. "Max?" "That's enough," I muttered, pulling him to his feet, but he wouldn't move. His smile had changed, stretched too wide, too stiff. For the first time that night, real fear gripped me. Not because I saw anything, but because Max looked like he was seeing someone I couldn't. I picked him up and carried him upstairs, though he kept twisting in my arms, looking back toward the dark hall. His voice echoed softly in the stairwell. "He's coming upstairs too." My heart dropped. I didn't respond, just hurried into his room and shut the door behind us. The air smelled like candy and pumpkin guts. I tucked him into bed and forced a smile. "Maybe Uncle Ben's just visiting in your dreams tonight," I said, trying to make it sound light. Max didn't laugh. He just stared past me toward the open closet door. I turned to close it, trying to ignore the feeling that something was already standing inside. My hand hesitated before I finally pushed it shut. The floor creaked behind me. I spun around, but Max was lying still, eyes half open, drifting off. I told myself it was just the house settling, just the old floorboards. Still, I sat on the edge of his bed for a while, afraid to leave him alone. When I finally went back downstairs, the house felt too big. The shadows seemed longer. Every time I passed the hallway, I caught myself glancing into the dark, waiting to see movement. Around midnight, I was scrolling through my phone at the kitchen table when I heard it. Footsteps upstairs. Slow, careful. I thought Max had gotten up again. "Max?" I called. No answer. The steps stopped, then started again, this time coming toward the stairs. My chair scraped loudly as I stood. The sound stopped right at the top step. I could almost feel someone standing there, looking down at me. "Max?" I said again, my voice shaking. No reply. I forced a nervous laugh and took a few steps toward the staircase. When I looked up, I saw a small shape at the edge of the hallway, a flicker of movement just before it disappeared behind the corner. I climbed the stairs slowly, my pulse pounding in my ears. When I reached the top, the hallway stretched out like a tunnel lined with closed doors. Max's was the only one slightly open. I pushed it gently. He was sitting up in bed facing the window, humming to himself. The closet door was open again. "Max," I whispered, stepping closer. "What are you doing up?" He didn't turn around. "I'm waiting for Uncle Ben to finish hiding," he said, his voice sing-song and distant. The air near the closet was colder now. "There's no one there," I said. "Yes, there is," Max whispered. "He told me not to tell you where he's hiding this time." My hands felt numb. I forced myself toward the closet. The door creaked as I pushed it open, just hanging clothes, toys on the floor, nothing else. "See?" I said, my voice barely steady. But Max's eyes went past me, and his lips curved into a faint grin. "He's behind you," he whispered. Every muscle in my body froze. I didn't want to turn, but I did. The space behind me was empty, yet the air felt wrong, thicker, humming with something invisible. I backed away and flicked the light on. The sudden brightness made the room shrink. Max blinked, then frowned. "You scared him away," he said quietly. "Now he's mad." Before I could speak, a soft knock echoed from the hallway. 3 slow, hollow taps on the wall. I stepped out, heart racing. The sound had come from near the top of the stairs. "Who's there?" I whispered. No answer, just the faint hum of the heater. Then, from the end of the hall came a voice. Low, familiar. "It's me, kiddo." My whole body went numb. That voice, warm, teasing, was Uncle Ben's. I froze, my knees shaking. "That's not funny," I whispered, my throat dry. The hallway seemed to stretch longer, darker. I took one step forward and saw movement near the bathroom door. A tall figure, almost solid, standing perfectly still. I blinked and it was gone. The silence after that felt alive. I backed slowly toward Max's room, keeping my eyes on the hall. When I stepped inside, Max was already lying down again, eyes closed as if nothing had happened. "Good night," he murmured sleepily. I sat beside him, leaving the light on this time, staring at the doorway until my eyes burned. The rest of the night dragged by in silence. I didn't sleep at all. When morning came, sunlight spilled through the blinds and everything looked painfully normal. The house was warm again. Max stretched, yawned, and smiled like nothing strange had happened. But when I turned to the hallway, the nightlight that had burned out was glowing again, and faintly, from somewhere deep inside the walls, I thought I heard a soft laugh. When I asked him about Uncle Ben, he just looked at me like I was speaking another language. "Who's that?" he asked. His voice calm, his expression blank, my stomach dropped. There was no trace of recognition in his eyes. I could tell he wasn't pretending. He truly didn't remember. That was 3 years ago, and we haven't talked about it since. But every Halloween weekend, when the nights get colder and the house gets too quiet, Max starts laughing again. Those same soft, distant giggles drifting from the hallway. The sound is light, innocent, almost playful, until you remember that no one's there with him. I don't ask who he's talking to anymore, because deep down, I already know. It was Halloween weekend, and my best friend Tyler was staying over. My parents had gone out for the night, leaving us the whole house to ourselves. We were 17, too old for trick-or-treating, but still chasing that Halloween thrill. The air felt thick and still, like something unseen was waiting. We'd set up sleeping bags in the living room, surrounded by candy wrappers, soda cans, and the soft pumpkin scent from my mom's candles. Outside, the neighborhood was silent, everyone asleep. Just past midnight, Tyler looked at me through the candlelight and smirked. "You ever been down to your basement at night?" he asked. I laughed. "Yeah, man, it's just a laundry room." He grinned wider. "Then prove it. Go down there with the lights off. For 2 minutes." I rolled my eyes. But something about his voice made the dare feel different, more serious. The basement door was off the kitchen, an old wooden one that always creaked when opened. I grabbed a flashlight from the counter, but Tyler stopped me. "No light," he said. "That's part of the dare." I groaned, pretending not to care, but my chest tightened as I reached for the doorknob. The metal was cold, colder than it should have been. When I stepped inside, the smell hit first. Damp, dusty, like the air hadn't moved in years. I ran my hand along the wall, searching for the light switch, but Tyler's muffled laugh from behind the door made me stop. "Lights off, remember?" he called. His voice sounded distant, farther than the kitchen should have been. The steps creaked under my feet, each one protesting louder than the last. The deeper I went, the heavier the darkness became. It wasn't just lack of light. It felt alive, pressing against me. I started counting in my head. 1 minute left, I told myself. Just one more. Then, somewhere behind me came laughter. Soft, low, and familiar. Tyler's laugh. Except it wasn't coming from upstairs. It was coming from down there, with me. My breath caught. I turned quickly, squinting into the dark, but there was nothing. The sound bounced off the walls, then faded, leaving a silence so heavy it made my ears ring. "Tyler?" I called, my voice cracking. No answer. The laughter stopped completely, replaced by something worse, the sound of slow movement on the concrete floor. I bolted for the stairs, gripping the railing, but when I reached the halfway point, the door above was closed. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. Then I felt it. Faint vibrations from the floorboards below. Something was moving. Deliberate. Heavy. I called Tyler's name again, trying to sound annoyed instead of scared, but the shaking in my voice gave me away. No answer. Then came another laugh. Lower this time. Slower. Like someone trying to mimic him, but not quite getting it right. I pulled out my phone for light, its weak glow barely enough to cut through the dark. The basement looked normal. Old boxes, a dryer, the shadow of our old couch. But from the far corner came a dragging sound, like bare feet on cement. I froze. "Tyler," I said again, but the only reply was silence. Then his voice, calm, casual, came from the shadows. "Dude, come check this out." The problem was, it came from the wrong direction. Behind the furnace. I wanted to believe he'd snuck down there somehow, that this was a prank, but something in the echo of that voice told me it wasn't him. "Tyler?" I whispered again. This time the answer was different. A faint whisper, almost inside my ear. "Don't leave yet." My body went cold. My phone light flickered once, then died completely. I could hear breathing, close and steady, Too close. Then the basement door creaked open above me. Relief flooded through me and I sprinted up the stairs 2 steps at a time, but when I reached the kitchen, Tyler wasn't there. His soda can was still half full on the counter, condensation dripping slowly. I called his name. Nothing. The house was silent. I grabbed my phone again. 12:41 a.m. I dialed his number. The vibration came faintly from below. From the basement, the sound of his phone buzzing echoed through the floorboards, followed by something else. Laughter. Steady now, rhythmic, like someone looping his laugh on repeat. My chest tightened as I backed into the living room. "This isn't funny," I yelled. The laughter didn't stop. It deepened, layered, until it sounded like more than one person was laughing. Then the basement door creaked open again, just enough to reveal the black void beyond. The laughter cut off, total silence. The air around me felt heavy, thick, as if the house itself was waiting. Every instinct screamed to run, but leaving Tyler behind didn't feel right. I swallowed hard and stepped closer. The smell of damp air drifted up again, mixed with something metallic, sharp. I opened the junk drawer and grabbed a small flashlight. Its beam flickered weakly as I aimed it down the stairs. "Tyler," I whispered, "I'm serious. This isn't funny." Silence. Then, faintly, his voice again. That same fake calmness. "Come on, man. I found something." Took one careful step down, then another. The deeper I went, the colder it became, as if the basement was swallowing the warmth from above. When I reached the bottom, I aimed the flashlight toward the corner behind the furnace. The beam hit something. Shoes. My breath caught. For a second, relief hit me, but the shoes were empty, just sitting there neatly, laces untied. I blinked, confused. A sound came from my right, a soft scuff, like someone stepping forward. I spun the light toward it but saw only movement, something ducking behind the boxes. My pulse was racing now. "Tyler?" I whispered again, even though I didn't want an answer anymore. Then, behind me, a low chuckle. I turned fast, but the space was empty. Only the sound lingered, faint, distorted, like a recording looping. That's when I noticed it wasn't echoing anymore. It was playing. I aimed the flashlight at the floor, and there it was. Tyler's phone. The cracked screen glowed faintly, his recorded laugh playing on repeat. My shaking hands picked it up. I stopped the playback and the basement fell silent, completely silent. Then from the darkness behind the furnace, the same laugh started again. Deeper, wet, and real this time. I dropped the phone and ran, taking the stairs 2 at a time, heart pounding like it was going to burst. I didn't stop until I reached the kitchen, slamming the door and locking it. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grab my phone to call 911. Before I could even say anything, the basement door behind me rattled violently. 3 slow knocks. Then, stillness. When the police arrived, they searched the entire house, the basement, the yard, the street. They didn't find Tyler. His phone was recovered, his fingerprints, everything normal. They said he probably left before I noticed and was trying to mess with me, but I knew that wasn't true. His laugh still echoes sometimes, faintly, through the floorboards late at night. And every Halloween since that night, the basement light flickers back on, even though the switch is broken. His shoes, his phone, everything was still there. The only thing missing was him. That was 2 years ago. I moved out of that house last summer, but my parents still live there. Every Halloween weekend, right around midnight, they say they hear laughter drifting up from the basement. Slow, familiar, almost like it's calling for someone. I tell them not to open the door because I already know what's waiting down there. Sometimes, when the night gets quiet enough, I still hear it too. The same laugh echoing faintly in the back of my mind, looping like it's stuck between worlds. And maybe it's just guilt, or maybe some dares should never be taken. Would you open that basement door, just to be sure? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story kept you up tonight, make sure to watch the next one. It's even darker, and it'll make you think twice before turning off the lights this Halloween.